least we need to be remembered of it, and that was, we just had Pearl Harbor, December 7th, the beginning of, for us, for World War II. And a long time I never really understood. We've been engaged in the European campaign, but not with men, mostly supplies. And then when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and we had an act of war against them, that automatically put us in war with Germany because they had a bilateral agreement. And we would have basically got there anyway, but it was because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor that put us in the European campaign. So a lot of men and women served during that period, and a lot of families had a lot of suffering from the losses, and I'm sure some of you had family members who were serving in that. We thank you for that. And I don't want it to go without saying, because we won't see each other until next year, but I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas this year, and remember the reason for the season. Jesus is the reason every day. But let us all not get caught up in the commercialism, and definitely keep that in thought at all times. Today, we have the Concordia High School Chamber Choir, and it's under the direction of Michael Polanski. It's close, right? Polanski. Very close. And he's going to come up here and introduce his choir. That were the choir itself was state champs last year, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little about that maybe one way or another. And let's welcome Michael.
Just say it.
Thank you guys very much. As he said, my name is Michael Polanski. I am the choir director at Concordia High School down the road in Tomball. Go ahead, James, come up. It's my third year teaching there. I think this is our third year doing this luncheon for this time of year, and so we're very grateful to be asked back year after year to sing as kind of your lunch entertainment, I guess you could say. The group up here is the chamber choir. They are a 16-voice audition group from our larger 75-voice concert choir. They rehearse twice a week in the morning at 7:15 a.m., getting ready for various concerts and competitions and things. We actually have our Christmas concert coming up this Sunday, December 14th at 7 p.m. at Trinity Lutheran Church in Klein. So if you enjoy what you're hearing this afternoon, that's another concert opportunity to hear this choir, the band, the larger choir, and things like that as we celebrate Christ's birth. We're going to do three to four short pieces for you this afternoon. By all means, feel free to keep eating. Will be the lunch entertainment for you. So we hope you enjoy the four pieces we're going to sing. We're going to start out with a song titled Bonze Abba, and this is a traditional Zambian welcoming song. So this is Bonze Abba.
Bonze Abba, Mupoke, Lava, Imele, Maka, Kubabana. 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 Kubabana. Kubabana.
was a selection that the larger group sang at the fall concert. We kind of adapted it to fit this size of choir. The next piece is going to be another one we sang at our fall concert, which is about a month and a half ago. It's titled "The Eyes of All Wait Upon Thee," and it is based from Psalm 145.
with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Our little mini concert here for you all with a piece titled Coventry Carol. It's a lesser known Christmas song. I think it's traditionally based about French. So we hope you enjoy our final piece. Thanks again for inviting us to come back and sing for you for a third year. We really enjoy it, having the opportunity to come out and sing for the community. So thank you very much for that. And this is a Coventry Carol.
Glory
appreciate you young people making a decision to get involved in music and just continue on. You're doing a great job, and just keep cross-centered in your life. We thank you so much. I want you to know we did have food. And I'm going to put him on the spot because he says you need to go back.
Respectfully decline your offer.
I'm joking. But if you want to go by and get a piece of pie, go ahead. Okay. Thank you so very much. Michael, if you'll come up. We have a special guest to bring us up to date right quick light on, we all, the Great Commission is for us to go out and spread the word to all about Jesus Christ, and all religions have some type of outreach, and domestically and internationally. But Mike Kittner is with the International Missions Commission on Missions group. And he's going to give us he just came back from overseas, and he's going to give us a brief update on what's going on in that world.
Okay. Thank you for this privilege. It's been my honor to work with this Ministry International Commission, which has started 40 years ago with a green bean farmer from Texas who went with a group into Japan, and while he was there, he decided this style of ministry would work throughout Central and South America. And as we began this years ago and took people with us, it has branched all over the world now. We've been in almost every nation in the world. And it has been my great privilege to enlist and train people just like yourself to go with us and to share your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And the churches are always prepared to greet us. I was in Togo in September and October, and there we saw several thousands of people pray to receive Christ, as we always do in Africa. It's so open throughout the world. I pastored for 15 years, and I was always kind of burdened about this Great Commission thing because I knew the Lord had called me to stay right here and work with my flock. But after my first trip, I went to the Philippine Islands, and there I led more souls to Christ in a week than I had in my entire lifetime. And the Lord so got a hold of me about this that I resigned my church, and since that time, the Lord has sent me into 67 nations. And throughout the world, we find that people are hungry. There's still over 1 billion, maybe even they say 2 billion people that have never even heard the name Jesus Christ. So after over 2,000 years, say church, we're behind, amen. But ministries like this are a great opportunity for you. If you would ever like to go anywhere planet Earth, if you love the Lord Jesus Christ, I will say we are a Baptist organization, but we work with people who love the Lord and are willing to go and share their faith. So anyway, I'd love to get better acquainted with you. I only have 3 minutes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Our guest speaker today, it's always an honor to be able to do this, but it's especially an honor when it's someone you consider a personal friend, someone you know is really a brother in Christ. And today we got Vicky Culpepper, and he is with Baker Hughes. He's in various positions for the last 39 years. He's currently the Director of Global Tax and Risk Government, oversight on over 200 tax exams around the globe and related controversial, that's not you. That's a personal joke. And he's also chair for the Cyfair Credit Union, treasurer for the local Gideon's camp, and he's vice chairman of IRS Administrative Affairs Committee on Tax Executive Institute based in Washington, D.C. Mickey is from Louisiana, and he has a wife named Pam and 2 children, and he is a legend, not only in his mind, but around the world, for his position on dealing in taxes. Please welcome Mickey Culpepper.
Y'all can hear me through this one? I am known for not ever lacking words. But I've written everything down so that I won't get off on too many stories. I first met Pat and Jim involved with the Gideon Jim Adams here, and y'all know Jim. And he first came up to Tomball in 2004 when I joined the Gideons. I was supposed to be down in the Champion Forest area because I lived down in Missouri Village, and they ended up assigning me up here, which worked out really good. I thought that the Tomball was growing in 2004, and look at it in 2014, it's only continued to grow. I am privileged today to have my daughter-in-law Megan, who's the wife of my son Jason, here with us, and my best friend since 1984 when I moved into Houston, Texas, was a guy by the name of Don Lee, who was an accountant just like me, and then Don started pastoring at Metropolitan Baptist. He's the pastor of, basically hospital visits, funerals, ministry, and Don's just, you would have never thought an accountant would become a minister, but he actually was doing all this way before he ever went into the ministry full time. And then I also have my friend Bill McLemore. Bill is a guitar player that I met in a donut shop, and and he's come and played, just take this job and shove it one time for a guy that retired from Baker Hughes, and so he knows more songs. So he's actually hurt his arm. He's got tennis elbow or guitar elbow for playing, so he couldn't play for us today. But anyway, but I do want to thank Pat for inviting me here today, just to share a few things with you guys about what's been going on in my life. And as I said, as Pat said, I'm a certified public accountant. Met Tom and his son Eric. They're tax people. They're actually taxman.com.
Where's this taxman?
Yeah, I love it. He's got his own website. But they operate here in Tomball, and we had something in common that we both had worked for KPMG, which is actually an accounting firm, sounds like a radio station. But anyway, I worked with them in Louisiana before the 1973 war that blew up the oil price, which I thought was the worst. I thought Jesus was going to come back. I was here in Houston going through training with KPMG, and I come back to the hotel room in October, and I see war in the Middle East, and I go, okay, just got out of school, just going to finally get to buy a car. Cars are real big with me, by the way. But anyway, and they had this war. Little did I know that 2 years later they were about to fire me from KPMG, and a little oil company, Baker Hughes, needed a taxman. So that's how I got to work with this. So I've been there since 1975. Just had my 39th anniversary on December 2nd. And to kind of tie you back in with Tomball, Texas, we bought BJ Services, which we had owned 2 or 3 times in the life of BJ. We bought them in 2010, and there's some magazines up here on the front. Be glad to take the whole magazine, but in the back of it on page 50, it starts the article. I love history, and it goes through the history of BJ, and you'll kind of see how I think, but please take the whole magazine. It was such a popular article that the magazine literally went out of publication. These are the last copies that exist, but they said, why don't you make copies, which I did, but I wanted you to see the whole book. And you'll be amazed. Everybody's talking about fracking and all this horrible stuff that's going on, but because of fracking, God has used that to bring the United States resources, and you know where we are today with the price of oil dropping. Okay, what has just happened on November the 17th, it was announced that Baker Hughes is going to be acquired by Halliburton. It'll be a merger, but actually going to acquire. So I would ask you today, it's 140,000 people worldwide right now are very nervous because they bought them to reduce and merge and get the cost down. I'm a casualty. I'm in corporate, and corporate is going to save them. The officers, not me, but the officers and the overhead will save them $200 million, so we'll be gone as of October, November of next year. please keep it. I got a degree. I love controversy with the government. I love controversy with other people, as Pat says. And so I will thrive because right now the governments of the world need money, and they are not shy about coming after corporations. So I will have a job somewhere. I tell everybody I'm going to the highest bidder. Don't worry about me. I'm not retired. I'm 63. I'll retire till I'm 2025. I'll have 50 years in the tax business. And you say, how can you do that? My brother is 83. He goes to work every day. Bill, that I met, just retired at 80 years old. I mean, we got it in us. I mean, we're going to. So I'll work for whoever will hire me. As I said, my job at Baker Hughes is hopefully Halliburton. I'll go red. They're red and blue. I'm wearing both colors today. I'd be glad to work with them and help. What I do is shepherd the various government tax agents in and out of the door as quickly as possible with the least additional tax costs to the company. Baker Hughes and BJ, because we acquired 2010, got BJ, well, we got their audits with them because it's a merger. Same thing Halliburton's going to do. They're going to get our problems when they get us because there's an exchange of stock. As Pat said, we have over $200 worldwide in 50 or more countries around the world. People say, why don't you travel a lot? I travel as least as possible because they duck me in the back of an airplane by the bathroom. And when you go to Kazakhstan, you go to Singapore, 22 hours in the back of the plane. I decided I'd do video conferences if necessary. I did go to 3 different countries last year, and we'll see what we're doing. But to show you how successful I have been, get this, 1979. Government, IRS shows up at the door of Baker Hughes in Southern California and said, we're here to audit. 1977, 1978, I hear you guys are starting to make a lot of money, and we were. I mean, it was starting to boom. After, we were acquired, some of the companies we acquired in 1972. Today, I want to report to you that the IRS, since 1979, my job is to get them in and out the door. They're still in our office, working on 2013. They never have left the audit since then, except for vacations and holidays. And I just want to say this, and you can applaud. You are good at your job. I mean, you get them in, get them out. Okay. Today's topic, enough about me. Today's topic is, I want to share with you, and this title came from a gentleman who's an electrician. Most of my knowledge comes from other people. The brightest thing you can do in the world is read and ask questions. People go, well, you talk so much, how do you ever ask questions? Believe me, I ask questions. If I ask somebody, I said, I got these men and women I need to talk to, they're Christians, what would be a good title? And the guy says, in the counting ledger of life, are you a debit, an asset, or a credit, a liability? And I said, that is good. And he said, number 2, Mickey, don't preach it. Just tell them what has happened in your life, how you became quickly a liability. And I was just assured that he believed that I wasn't a liability anymore. So that was where the title came from. And then from that, I conceived and kept thinking through it. And this, you don't know how long I have worked on this topic. For me to write things down in 3 or 4 pages is a miracle because I don't focus very well on stuff like that. But anyway, then you take that and you take it and you go a little bit further. Tomorrow, I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to the United States Capitol, Washington, D.C. I will be meeting in the U.S. Mint building. It's a new building. It's not the old Mint building. And I will be meeting with the top people with the IRS. So they're going to redo for one more time how they do corporate audits. And they call, and this is, see, I copy a lot of things in life. They're coming up with the HUD process. Help us get it right. And so we're going to meet, we're part of the stakeholders. They'll meet with the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. They'll meet with the lawyers, and they're going to meet with us, the tax executives. Well, second subtitle that comes out of this, once you figure out, hey, Mickey, I want to be an asset for God. I'm not real sure I am, but by the time this is over with, I think it's your heart. If your heart wants to be an asset, the time you get through listening to me and you say a prayer in your heart, you will leave this building and be an asset for God. Okay? Well, what do you do then? Here's the answer. You begin to hug Him. You help you give instant tenderness. Hug somebody. I grew up in Louisiana without a father. He died when I was 6 months old. It has affected me all my life. Joe can tell when I got him, he started hugging me because he could tell I wanted attention. But I just wanted a man's affirmation that they would appreciate me. I had women, I had preachers, I had principals, but they're all paid. I needed a man. And at 63 years old, I still need it. But what I finally figured out, if you can't get it, give it. And if you hug people, it's like, especially in today's world, I'm going to say this to you, it doesn't matter anymore. You can hug men. They're out of the closet. So if they're out of the closet, you will know who they are. So go ahead and hug. Because that's what the whole thing, I'm kind of being silly, but one reason men didn't hug because it was an indication that you might not be the right way in your preference in your life. Well, now you can hug anybody. I don't care your preference, but I always tell you I got a wife. I'm sure okay. So I'd like to invite you just to listen to some of the steps I took starting in 1985 at age 34, and you go, why did you take so long? To attempt to balance my accounts with my God, my family, my neighbors, my co-workers, and yes, even the IRS. Okay? Thus, I desire to become an asset in God's kingdom on earth, not a continuous liability, and to learn how to hug it. The reason I did this was to attempt to find a path to cope with the uncertain future and outcome of my past failures. Although I became a born-again Christian at age 9, had even taught Bible study starting at age 22, became a deacon at age 26 in the Baptist church, for some reason I was constantly fearful, I was very inflexible, and overall I was a very verbal worrier and whiner. And it could have been something about my mother from age 5 telling me that your daddy's dead. I just talked to the doctor. They said they'd adopt you if I die, because I could die any minute. And she kept doing that kind of stuff all the way till she died a premature death at 89. But all this time she'd tell me and my sister that, and you'd have to be on a farm out in the middle of the woods with no car, and every time she'd take us to people's houses, I was going, oh my God, is that going to be my parents? I mean, I didn't want to do so. I think that built into the insecurity, and probably from my personality, I like structure. I want things, I don't like uncertainty. So you can imagine what Mickey's going through since November the 17th. And it ain't just me. This morning I was on a conference call, a lady comes and knocks on the door, I can tell she's about to cry. This lady is 42 years old, a tax professional, and she did start crying. When I told her, I said, I'm just on the phone, I'll just hang up and come on in. She's worried about her job. She's the sole provider in that household. So we all have insecurities. To give you an example of my thought on the ledger of life's assets, listen to these real careful and see if you agree. And can you determine in your own behavior, not about me, but your own behavior, are you an asset? Or are you a liability not only to God, but the people that you're around? Okay, asset number 1, you're rejoicing. Or a liability, you're very unhappy. Okay, asset number 2, satisfied. Now, I'm kind of discontented. You're kind of a liability. And we all go back and forth. Asset number 1, you're a giver. You're not a taker. Taker, selfish on the other side. You glad to see the new day? Asset. You worried about what the day's going to bring? Liability. You're secure in the moment? You're fearful of the future. You're other focused or you're self focused. You're anxious and stressed or you rest in God's control. And we all go in the mood swings depending on how much sugar intake, in my case, or other things, or who I've recently been around. But also, I discovered with my mother at age 80 when we were having to sit up with her at night, they put her on Lexapro, which is a wonderful drug that they've come out with that doesn't change your mood or anything, it just calms you down. Before I meet with the IRS, I take 2 of them. I really do. And they thought that I was kidding. When I watched my mother, she had always been worried, always unhappy. I thought it was because she'd gone through depression. First husband ran off and left her, and after living with her for 25 years, I realized I'd have left her. I mean, because she just worried, and she was just always, she had trouble. Then she married my daddy, and lo and behold, he died. Within 5 years, had 2 more kids, now she's raising 4 kids by herself. And she had enough to worry about, so I just thought it was an environment. No! She had a problem. My grandfather lived with us. He went blind. He ran all his boys off because he had a temper. He was always have to be working. Well, guess what Nick inherited? that same anxiety. And when you're verbal, you get it because it's going to come out. And when I saw my mother, they put her on it for a year. She was the happiest person I ever seen. Suddenly didn't have any pain anymore. Suddenly didn't have all these other things. And they said that she gained too much weight, so they took her off of it. And she went right back to who she'd been all those years. And I went, maybe I need some of that. But I still didn't do it. I still didn't do it, so I finally went to it because I didn't want to be messed around with the drugs and all this kind of stuff. Because I like my personality. I like getting a Corvette and zooming down the road. I'm not bipolar. I kept telling IRS I'm bipolar. Be careful, okay? But anyway, the whole point was I cried. I cried. We were going through a crisis, and I'll get to that in a minute. It worked, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I asked the nurse, the doctor, I said, can you help me? And she said, I will heal you. And God healed me. He gave me a little pill. I had to take it, and I still had to run to kind of keep the anxiety down. That is a miracle in my life. I'll go on some more later. What happened in 1984? Why did I start from a change? I had the third crisis in my life. I'm not going to tell you the first one. You'll have to figure it out later. But number two was my wife had left me and my son, married Megan, and for her boss, who was actually twice her age. She was 26. He was 52. What did that do to your ego? Okay? Well, and then plus I wanted a family. So I went, whoa. So man, I repented. I went through everything, you know. 3 years later, I mean, within a year, it didn't take long. I bought a Corvette, got a lot of women in the car with me. It was a wonderful time, I thought. But the Corvette, it wore off after a few months. But the one thing didn't wear off is I caught my wife, Pamela, that I married, that had a little girl that was 4 years old. Jason was 3 years old. We were reunited. And then things were going really good, and they told us they're going to lay everybody off in Houston, in Bossier City, Louisiana. And so they sent me to Houston, Texas. Had a 6% mortgage. Now I have a 16% mortgage. My house was declining in value every day from the day I bought it in December 1983. And by the end of the year, lo and behold, I had told the wrong person, the number 2 person in the company, that he was a burden rather than an asset. And my best friend, who's also getting up here, he defended me, and within a very short period, he was going to be out insourced to New Orleans, and I was going to be fired. Well, that's crisis number 3. Okay, in your 1985. So in the fall of 1985, I decided you spring back, you gain an hour. I'm very time focused. My mother constantly told me, redeem the time, son, redeem the time. That's what Paul says in the Bible, redeem the time. I can't tell you exactly where it's at, but it's in there. And I didn't know, I don't know if she knew what it meant, but to her it meant, don't you dare sit down. You get up and you go do something, whatever. So, man, I'm time conscious. I can tell you almost what time it is without looking at the clock. 5 minutes to 1. I didn't. Anyway. But typically, it set my mind, made me a good accountant, made me very structured, but it caused basic anxiety. So in 1985, fall back. I ain't going to fall back. I'll go to bed at the same time, 9 o'clock, really 8 o'clock, and in the morning, it's supposed to be 5 o'clock, then at 4 o'clock. Well, here's what it is. Step number 1. Now this can be used in your life. Get the facts. Okay? So in the fall, I get up, I read the Wall Street Journal, the Houston Chronicle, cover to cover. I would pray with a journal. I would put down my prayers. I kept them up. I knew who I'd met, when I'd met them, all that kind of stuff. And when I read the Bible, and you got to know, the time I was 22, I'd already read the Bible 5 or 6 times because my mother had already had failed marriages, had other things. She said, you 2 kids are going to know the Bible. So every night we had to read the Bible to her. She didn't read it, but we read it to her. I read a chapter, my sister read a chapter. Today, my sister will not pick up the Bible. She'll go to church, but she didn't like to read it. I fell in love with the history. So, in the Bible, you discover that God has a plan for each of them. The Bible clearly sets out the fact that men can overcome their failures and be forgiven. Examples are Abraham, Moses, Peter, Paul. And so, therefore, you learn we serve a forgiving God. When we got a tongue like me that can cut you when I get mad at you, you better have somebody that can forgive you. I'm quick to say I'm sorry, but I've already done a lot of damage before that point. Okay? And so I needed God to forgive me. So that really helped. So I already knew about those guys, but I started really focused on it. I started reading biographies and autobiographies. I was traveling around the world for Baker Hughes. Had a lot of time, 22 hours on an airplane going to Singapore. I read, and I can continue. When I read today, I do not read fiction. I read nonfiction. I read the autobiographies or biographies of every president of the United States. I've read about Rockefeller. I've read about people and how they succeeded. Came all the way up to today. Why did they succeed? Why did they fail? And what one man said, if you want to succeed in life, keep a journal. And I went, whoop! I think I'll do that. So that's when I started keeping the journal. Okay, what did I do then? Step number 2, you got to analyze the information you get. What you're going to find out is everybody says this is going to happen, this is going to happen. It's called conspiracy theories. If you work with the IRS, they're unionized, they're making $100,000 or $100,000 a year, but they're in a union. They file protests, we'll get to that in a minute, grievances against you, their own employers, and so everything's a conspiracy. They hate Halliburton. They wouldn't really like, I kept telling them Baker Hughes, a lot of them are Christians, I kept telling them Baker Hughes was a Christian developed company, I was a Christian, and so they forgave me, but they still did not like Halliburton, okay? And anyway, because of the conspiracy, they hate Dick Cheney, they hate all this kind of stuff. But they didn't. I said, well, read other things, read the other side. Well, what you got to say? So, what are some of the spiritual, and emotional, and business triumphs and failures during my past? What I write down during my past week, month, year, and the holidays. I take off 2 weeks after Christmas. I will read my journal from the year before. I get the highlights. And then here's the big question. Jesus says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God." Matthew 5:8, the words of Jesus Christ. And I can tell you right now, you can see me during the day, and you think, this guy, I don't know, I probably run on people, but I try to do differently, and I guarantee that hour in the morning, me and God are together. I see God. I don't have to wait till I get to heaven. And y'all know the same thing. The older you get, the more wisdom, life experience you have, as they always say, you can get really bitter. That's why he says, be careful of the root of bitterness. Because it can take any of it. Sickness, other things, unfairness in life. But anyway, I said, what did I sing? Why did I sing to get promoted at work? Why did I get in leadership positions in church? I was chairman of the deacons of the Metropolitan Baptist Church. We had over 100 deacons, but I resigned after a year because I got mad. Okay? I would do that. I set my own failures up. What caused these relations to sometimes fracture? My overreaction, others' greed, others' self-focus, my own self-focus, my defensiveness. Okay? Then I began to think about the fractured relationship with my and other failures. What happened? Why did some of these, did I make these choices? And what some of the things that I desired never to happen again? In business, I didn't want to lose my job. In relationship, I never wanted to get another divorce. In the family, there would always be different answers for my 6 brothers and sisters and 6 brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws. They're all different. I'm the baby. So a lot of them are 20 years older than me, so I watched their lives. And so I didn't realize, got to be more flexible. And that's hard for the county. So I try to do that. And any of these things, I desire not to let it, I desire for it not to happen again. And where would I turn for comfort when it did? Because it's no guarantee because you have a divorce, you're not going to have another one. Okay. Then I've already told you, I started writing it down in a spiral notebook. And then I learned one thing after going through a fraud investigation with the government. The lawyer said something about these people that have written things down in the journal in the Word, they government can get that. And I went, I wrote all that stuff down. I went home and burned my journal. So I got 3 years. I got a whole record retention policy, because it can and will be used against you. Because you write down stuff that you really don't even want your wife to read. But anyway, and so I throw them away, and then I attempt to change my perspective before the day begins. And then number 4, the last one, before I jump to it, says start the process of change and develop better coping skills. I run, I take meds, I listen to music, I found a couple of older men before I was on medication, before I was running, for all that. Both of them named Jack. Both of them were 15 to 20 years older than me. They're both, I did the funeral for one of them. Don did that. We both were the speakers. And then the other guy died at 89. Both those two guys told me the mistakes they had made, told me the life experiences, and it really helped me. And one of them was a hugger, the other one was stiff as a board, but the time I got through with it, he was hugging. we would meet at his shop on Friday mornings and pray, and that's how, I carried him all the way through, and Don did too. He had Parkinson's disease and died in his 70s. But, so what's the outcome? Number one, you probably already know, my personality did not change. I'm still who I am, and yours won't either, okay? I still overreact. I still raise, I call it raising my deep voice to the IRS and other government agents, co-workers, and wives. I do that at times. Some people call it yelling. I just say I'm just expressing myself. If you get me in a stressful situation, here's what I do. I'll start quoting the Bible. Because from 7 years old, that's what I read. And I knew that guy was in authority. So I would just get those, and I didn't try to memorize it. It just literally comes out. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, because one of the guidelines was, in 2006, 2007, we got into a fraud investigation with the IRS, a gentleman who wanted a retirement program paid for by the federal government. You can actually turn your neighbor in if you know that he's cheating on the government for over $200,000. You can turn Jim in, you can turn Pat. Pat, don't have to worry about it, he didn't have any money. But people, seriously, you can turn people in, you can turn a corporation in, you get 30% of it. And this guy saw that, he went after us. The problem with him doing that is that then he sued to get his job back, is how we found out his name. He almost took out 2 employees, one of them a dear friend of mine, and I was determined that we were going to take him out. And I'm one of the most loyal person. Once you get me, you think I kid you, I do other stuff, but if I know you, I'll go to hell back with you to try to make sure and defend you. Well, we went through that. So, they're razzing me in a meeting. They know they can get me baited. And I'm the worst person for an IRS audit. I'm the stereotype because I'm going to react. So they start baiting me in this meeting, and I just start laying it. 15 people in there, 8 IRS agents. One of them a Buddhist, one of them a Muslim, and one of them a non-believer. And I knew that. Because if you're around me very long, I'm going to find out. I'm not going to try to convert you, I'm going to find out what you think. Well, I get up there, and I am shaking. I'm so upset. And I do like this. And I went, how to get in the Bible? Well, guess what happened? I turned to 1 Peter. And why did I turn to 1 Peter to, let me see if I can find it here. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13, 14. These are the official documents of the Department of Treasury. Notes of a meeting from a man named Peter Apia, who was grew up in Ghana. He went to a Catholic school, and a Gideon came to their school one day and gave them Bibles. So right off the bat, 3 years before, me and Peter were like this. Well, now he's on the other side. Well, he deliberately wrote everything down. April the 10th. 2007. Got all these participants, all the participants from the company. Then they go through it, they're doing pretty good, and then suddenly Mickey, they say something, it sets me off. I stand up and I said, here's the taxpayer's response to the government's baby. Mickey Culpepper. The exact quote was from St. Peter, written to the Christian church members approximately 40 AD. This is the government writing this. I'm not making it up. To instruct them how to live under the role of the Roman Empire. The text of the quote is found in the first letter of the Apostle Peter, chapter 2, verses 13 and 14. New King James Version of the Bible. I mean, this guy's an accountant. Okay, got a load of good parentheses. Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme or the governor as those who are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do well. Good. The reason for quoting the Bible was to demonstrate, this is government talking now, to demonstrate the foundation of respect that Baker Hughes Tax Representative Mickey Culpepper and others in the Baker Hughes Tax Group have towards the IRS agents as the U.S. Treasury Department. Mickey Culpepper stated it was his personal goal for the past 20 years of practice before the IRS to submit to the IRS rules and requests so that Baker Hughes tax group could be praised and not punished. And I said, you're doing this because you got a whistleblower, he wants a payment, and they couldn't talk about the whistleblower, so every time I could, I brought it up. I tried to debate them. But the whole point was, I was making a point because I was so squeezed, and thank God I had written, but I was prepared because I had been praying that verse morning after morning. God, how can I do this? When the general counsel tells you, me and my boss, he looks at him and I says, is there any employee of the tax department of Baker Hughes who needs their own personal attorney? That's death in corporate America. Because they knew. And I was like, oh my God. So then your boss, who knows the same person, Elizabeth says, do you think she's lying? And I said, no, I've known her for 15 years, and I don't think she's lying. And then I had to tell the government, we had to interview her 4 times to get her to, she's a lawyer, so she always swore every time. And then they finally looked at her and they said, if you stick to that story, and we're telling you this because Mickey wants us to help you, if you stick to that story, you're going to have to hire your own attorney. So we don't believe a word you just said. And she changed because she was trying to defend the freaking, she was trying to defend the company. You go through, so you go through those experiences, and you've all had stuff that you come in your life. You see how I get emotional about it, but that's the way life is as a Christian. Okay, I'm going to finish up here. I did not achieve all the goals I wrote down, but I still have a job after 39 years. I'm still married to my second wife after 33 years. And this is, I started at age 15 as a shoe shine boy, tithing. So I won't tell you what crisis number 1 was, but crisis number 1 is I challenged God that I'd been tithing, and He put me in the hospital. And my mother said, son, you should have never done that. And I had no health insurance. I made a 4 that semester after a lot of things, and all my medical expenses were paid. My wife even accused me one time, you're doing this because you think God's going to give you money. And I said, no, I challenged God one time. So at this age, I am now giving so much money to the government because I give on my gross. I'm making more money than it would astound y'all what they're paying me. And it astounds me every day. And look here, I'm 110 and I'm up here talking to y'all. I'm still working. But anyway, I'll run 2 or 3 miles a day. I still pray. And I'm going to leave you with this. I love the Lord, Psalms 160, because He's heard my voice, He's inclined His ear, and He's listened to me. Therefore, I will call upon the Lord the rest of my life. And what will I return to the Lord for the benefits He's given me? I will take the cup of salvation. I will pay my vows to the Lord in the presence of His people, and I will say thanks to my God in front of people. And I thank y'all for very good. Thank y'all. I hope I didn't preach to y'all too much.
Very nice. Good.
Okay, I appreciate everyone. I know some of us are on time schedules, and Vicki, thank you so much. And for all of you being here, have happy holidays. We have oil's going down, but price of food's going up. They're now charging us about $11 for a meal, so if you can help with that, just leave it in the middle of the table. And God bless everyone. Be safe during the holidays. We really appreciate it. Let's see if there's something else I'm forgetting, or not forgetting. Jim, anything? Okay, Manuel, will you close? Mary, one of our directors, will you close in prayer?